All right, you guys are a cheery bunch. I love to hear the chatter, so we're going to continue that throughout the morning as we've got you in this room. I'm Vicki Rawinski. I'm the director for Macomb County Planning and Economic Development. You are at our very first inaugural workshop, and you'll find that there is a big, huge effort behind what we're trying to do today. This won't be the first time that we meet as a group. We're going to continue this dialogue. The program that we are running is actually something that was funded through a grant from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. We pursued this grant for a number of reasons. And what we realize in this space, especially as it relates to Industry 4.0, is I 4.0 means something very different for everyone, including us in economic development. When we look at the transformation that we are sitting in today, it's pretty phenomenal. It's not happening in easy baby steps. Some of it is a giant leap, and some of it is incremental. Part of this awareness campaign, which we're calling Macomb Engage, you will learn that there are various pillars and elements of Industry 4.0. Some of it you actually already have implemented within your organization, and you'll have your aha moment today. Others you're interested in, but you're not sure how to even get engaged. And so when we look at the Macomb Next effort and what we're trying to do here, it is all about collaboration and partnership. So before we kick this off, we've got a really great video to kind of highlight what it is we're doing. All right, so nothing better than some fun music to wake you up and this dreary morning here in Macomb County. So as mentioned, this effort is called Macomb Next. We do have a website for all of you to visit after this event to really learn about what is Industry 4.0, what are the pillars, who are the partners, and how you can engage in this effort. Before we take a look at our strong agenda this morning, we've got a great keynote speaker who really has been transformational in taking his organization, Automation Alley, to that next level of conversation on what is Industry 4.0. So with no further ado, I'd like to invite up Tom Kelly.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? I think I'm allowed to take this off, and I think it'd be better to do the conversation this way. So we're going to go through a quick presentation. I'm going to move really fast because I only have 15 minutes and about 45 minutes worth of material I'd like you guys to know about before we move on to the panel. So Automation Alley is Michigan's Industry 4.0 Knowledge Center. We started this journey in 2016. Remember, Automation Alley was an 8-county economic development organization that kind of helped businesses understand technology. But in 2016, we pivoted and we said, everything has to focus on Industry 4.0 because we saw it as an existential threat. We saw what Amazon was doing to retail, we saw what Netflix was doing to entertainment, and on and on and on. And we're seeing the same thing in manufacturing, just delayed. But now we're seeing that that delay is actually, it's here. And we're going to talk about some of that. So I gave you a little background on who Automation Alley is. We are now statewide. All 12,000 manufacturers in the state of Michigan. In 2010, we had 16,000. Today, we have 12. Our job is to make sure we don't have 6 in 10 years, that we maintain our robust base. But all 12,000 manufacturers are entitled to a free membership in Automation Alley. We've taken that hurdle away. It's called an essential membership, gets you a ticket to integrate, gets you our tech and industry report. It's in partnership with the state of Michigan, Macomb, Oakland, all our economic partners, and it's to take the hurdles away. So what is Industry 4.0? It's really a collection of all of these technologies that are acting on manufacturing, all the ones you've heard before. But we're going to try to change the paradigm today and say at Automation Alley, we don't think the technology is actually what you should be focusing on. We think that without a doubt what you need to focus on is culture, and a culture of how do I become a software-first business. If you hear what GM is talking about, Mary Barra says, I hope that when I retire, people view GM at that moment as a software company that happens to make cars. Jamie Dimon, the head of JP Morgan Chase, said, we're a software company that happens to do banking, and on and on and on. Amazon is a software company that happens to do retail. Netflix is a software company that happens to do video streaming. By the way, they started out just like Blockbuster, shipping DVDs to you, but it was never their intent. They were a software company arcing to their final destiny, which was pure digitization. And we think manufacturing is going to go the same rate. We think this is the most disruptive issue that will face manufacturing in our lifetimes. It's going to be much more impactful than the first industrial revolution, which was steam and the train, the second with Henry Ford, the third with computers and robotics. This is going to be more disruptive than all of those, in our opinion. So I want to give you an example. There's a company called Relativity Space. Has anybody heard of Relativity Space? So they're in the aerospace industry. They print rockets. And they've been working on this for 4 years. And I met Tim Ellis, the CEO, as part of a World Economic Forum event. And he was telling me 4 years ago, hey, I got $2 million from Jeff Bezos. I'm going to 3D print rockets. I thought he was nuts. But I followed him ever since. And we've talked. And we've seen what he's been able to do. 4 years later, they're going to shoot their first rocket into space first or second quarter of 2022, next year. So it's here. It's here. And you can see his videos of what he's doing. So existing technology for a rocket is 30,000 parts. Takes 12 to 18 months to build. This is the Boeings, the Lockheeds, the Raytheons, everybody in the rocket business. 60 to 180 million per launch. And it's not iterative, because once you build the lines, it's very expensive to change how you make things. So the iteration process is a long time. That's why it takes 4 years to bring out a new car, because you've got to tool up for all that. And that's the expense. It's not the digitization. For the I4O technology, it's 300 parts. 99% reduction in parts. Right? That scares the hell out of me. If you're in the parts business, which we are in Michigan, that's a scary proposition. It's a 60-day build cycle. It's $12 million per launch. It's fully iterative. In fact, it's all done digitally. No two rockets are the same. As he's building these test rockets, they're not going up, but he's firing them. Every single rocket is different because they build it and they learn something. It goes into the software, they model it again, they build the next one. And it takes them less than 60 days to build the rocket. All of those parts that go into the rocket, he said to me one day, he said, Tom, I got two materials, conducting metal and non-conducting metal. And I can build almost all I need in my rocket just with those two components. And so what we focused on was not how you bring a supply chain together, but how do you just build a rocket from scratch? And that's what they're able to do. That's a very scary proposition. But what we need to say is, for all of us in this room, how do we become software first? So the 4 Ds of digital disruption. It is very disruptive. I'm not going to kid you. We're all in this together, so don't shoot the messenger. It's about disintermediation, dematerialization, demonetization, and democratization. All of those work against margin and profitability, right? Rupert Murdoch said in 1996 or something, when the internet was just starting to come out and gain steam, he said the internet is going to destroy many more businesses than it creates. And he was very prescient in that. He really understood what was happening. And we need to make sure that in this global village, Michigan wins. And the way Michigan wins is we understand how to be a software-first business. That we make things and we're very good at the physical. So how do we overlay a digital mindset on a physical business? So I want to share with you just some really quick ideas, right? So in a physical world, this is the world we live in Michigan, right? And we're very proud of that world, and we've done some great work in that world. We design and then we scale, because changes after you design is very expensive. Once you start down that production path, you can't change. We have to be very consistent. That means high quality. Change is incremental. We don't move very fast. It's serial. You can only work on one physical part each station, so it has to move in an assembly line fashion or a subtractive line fashion. And it's all about throughput. In digital, it's about designing to scale. So in other words, the rocket is all about, hey, I'm going to keep iterating in software, and then I'm going to print one. And then I'm going to iterate some more, and I'm going to print one. And once I figure out the iteration, I can scale to as many rockets as I want. I just need a second printer and a third printer, and if the economics support that. So I don't have to worry about how do I build a line so I can produce 50 rockets a year. It's how do I build software that allows me to get one rocket digitally printed that I can then replicate. That's the big change, the mindset that we need to come in. It's about being variable, exponential change, parallel. What's interesting about digital is he's working on printing rockets, but he's running a modeling and simulation on how to print a car frame. Doesn't that scare the hell out of you? Elon Musk is working on that too, by the way. How to print a car frame, body and white, all in one shot, right? Because once you get that, the cost of the steel is the same as the cost over there. It was all the value of taking the steel from a roll or a sheet or a billet to the actual frame, all the stamping and everything that has to happen. If you eliminate all of that and just print the car up, you say, yeah, but the throughput sucks. That's a capital problem. You think the street is not going to give him the capital to have, well, I can make one a day, so I guess if I need to make 5,000 a day, I need 5,000 printers. That's going to cost $500 million. You don't think the street's going to give him $500 million to go? So stop thinking like, oh my gosh, this, the complexity of doing mass production is so hard. No, it's not. It's a capital problem. That's all it is. So if you think about physical versus digital business models, physical is about ownership. The physical thing, I own it. Digital is about the experience. And you'll hear all these companies that are getting serious in the physical space, like a GM. GM has come out with Ultify, right? And they're saying that it's not about the car anymore, it's about the customer experience, the whole experience. So they're really drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm actually really proud of Ford and GM and Stellantis about what they're trying to do, but we need the whole supply chain to come along with them, and that's what we're talking about. So I'm going to go on from here and just give you some ideas. This presentation will be available for all of you, and I'm happy to have a conversation, but I want to be careful of my time. So this next slide about physical versus digital capital management, this gets us in Michigan all the time. Physical is about equipment, it's about allocation of capital, and it's about net present value analysis. If you went to your CFO and said, hey, I got this great idea, I'd like to experiment making rockets digitally. Say, what's your return on investment? Well, I don't know. I don't even know if we can do it. Oh, hell, we're not funding that project. Come back when you have a brain, right? That's what the CFO would do. That's what they're tasked with doing. And so we have a project at Automation Alley. How do we convince CFOs that you have to move from an allocation of capital to option-like bets? Show me that option. Okay, you want to invest in R&D in this capacity. What would it mean if we actually were able to do something like that? How would that change our business? Right? And most CFOs don't want that answer, because then that leads to another problem. If you're successful, you force us to change our business model. And that really, really scares me, right? Because my business model is based on all the capital and assets that I have put in place over my lifetime if I'm a business owner. And the trouble is, and again, don't shoot the messenger, we're here to help. We're here to say, how does Michigan arrive? The trouble is the market doesn't care. It doesn't give a damn. It'll move by us so fast, and it'll allocate that capital to all those risk takers that are saying, I am going to blow up manufacturing. And we don't have a birthright to continue with orders, right? It's only because of our know-how that allows us to be at the table, and we need to shift our know-how and says, okay, yes, we understand the physical, but we need to start shifting to understand the actual software, and that's really the play. So we think there's 5 principles of digital transformation that we preach, if you will, as evangelists in this space. The first is become a software company that happens to be a manufacturer. I know you think as a smaller manufacturer, this is really, really hard to do, and it is. I'm not going to kid you. We think it's existential, but we think you can do it in a way that it's hard mentally, but you don't have to spend a ton of money. In other words, if you can begin to say, I wonder for our business, for the products we make, how could we model that digitally? And how could we run iterations on that model just to see what we get? That doesn't cost very much at all. What's happening is when you see what's happening in modeling and simulation, all of these parts that used to be made a certain way because the stamping press could only stamp it that way, or the CNC could only machine it that way, if you let the computer go with the constraints you give it, it designs bone-like structures. It designs these crazy things that lightweight the heck out of the part. The trouble is, you now have to 3D print that part. I'm back to changing the business model. Now it's like, that's why a lot of companies are like, don't even take me down that path, Tom. It's a waste of time for me because all of my assets are tied in what I know, and I don't want this journey. Right? Sadly, we hear from so many manufacturing owners where they say, Tom, I'll do it as long as I can, and when it's unprofitable, I'll close the business. That's a terrible outcome, right? That's a terrible outcome for society, for Michigan. We need to get them enthusiastic, say, look, for your children, stay in the fight with us. Don't give up. Let's figure this out together, right? So how do we become a software company that happens to be a manufacturer? And we have tools that can help with that. And we share them with Macomb in partnership. And we say, hey, we're all in this together. We don't claim to have the answers, but we do claim to help you with the questions you need to be asking to get to your own unique answer that helps you get farther. Start with the end customer experience and explore product service duality. What we mean by that is, even if you're in a supply chain where you're captive to a tier 2 or a tier 1 or the OE or whatever the case may be, you have to be focused on what the customer that you serve, what their experience is. That you're not a product vendor, that you're an experience provider. I know that's a fundamental mind shift in our economy and how we work. But we have to get there because it's in that experience that you'll figure out, here's the data I need to have, and that data's got to roll all the way up to their customer experience. At some point at the end of the day, it's a customer that is a consumer that is the end arbiter of what's valuable and what isn't valuable. And we have to make sure we can get there. Understand and accept physical-digital duality. This is that whole idea of you need to start in a digital world. You need to start from a software-first perspective. The physical will come, but the physical is not the dog. The physical is the tail, even though we have all these assets that have already been put to work. And sometimes those assets will be the proper choice, and sometimes they won't. The problem is we tend to do our net present value analysis backwards, which is what are the assets I have, and what does that make me good at? And that's not a sustainable strategy in a digital world. That's the tail wagging the dog. And we need to flip it and say, what are we good at in terms of IP creation, in terms of knowledge creation, in terms of innovation? Because that's what everybody wants in the world today. It's innovation. They don't want just a vendor. They want innovation, right? And by the way, they don't know how to get there either, right? The OEs talk out of both sides of their mouth. They're like, well, Tom, the whole thing, and I've had these conversations, the whole thing, we're focused on innovation. We need more innovation. Are you willing to pay more? Oh, hell no, it's a 5% price decrease next year, right? So they don't know what they need to do. But they know, both sides know what needs to happen. We need a lot more innovation, and God, we got to keep our prices down, right? But how you get there is digital modeling. Because you can take a lot of cost and weight and everything out of a vehicle when that happens. So 4 is make small bets using an agile framework. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. What we're saying is find ways that you can experiment. One of the things that doesn't cost anything that I challenge everyone in this room to do, even if it's a little scary, just for yourself, start doing a little research and put a timeline on when do I think my product will become obsolete because of 3D printing. Is it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? 20 years is probably a good bet, right? But if it's 10 years from now, that implies if you discount cash flow on your business, you got 3 years to sell it or you're dead. No one's going to buy that business. It's worth 0. If you think about it, right? If you're building assets and you want to retire and sell that business, you have to have something to sell into for future discounted cash flows. And if it's going to change and say, oh my God, you know what? I got 7 years. Well, not really, because if I actually want to protect the assets I have to start right now running as fast as possible, So that when someone comes to buy me, we say, yeah, this is the cash cow, we're kicking off things, but here's our digital process. Here's what we're doing digitally, that when the market demands it, we're ready to go. It's just a question of how many printers do we bring in. Oh, okay, that I like. That says something to someone who's going to buy the business. Integrate physical and digital engineering. We just talked about that. Make sure that you're focused on the digital. Okay? So, again, from Automation Alley's perspective, this is what we think you need to be doing to survive Industry 4.0 and thrive, by the way, in Industry 4.0. Notice none of that is technical. There's no technology associated with that. The technology, again, is the tail. It's not the dog. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Right? And there's a lot of tech companies that are partners with Automation Alley. But they'll say, hey, just this tech, that solves your problem. It's like, no, my problem is culture. I have to change my culture so that we become an organization that can handle constant disruption. Right? Physical processes cannot handle constant disruption. In fact, it's the kiss of death, right? It's just, you can't be tweaking the machine because that leads to poor quality. You can't be changing the machine all the time because you can't afford it. And so what you do is you kind of nibble around the edges and keep the line going. But in a world that's constantly changing, there's only one path. You have to digitize. And then physical becomes, do I 3D print this? Do I run it down my line? Do I do something else with it? And that's how you arrive at being a true Industry 4.0 company. So change your culture, become a learning organization that is very tolerant of failure, which is another word for experimentation, innovation, right? And you can do it now very cheaply. In the old days, you had to innovate. You'd have to actually build physical prototypes. And it was very expensive to do that. So you had to pick and choose which prototypes to build. In a digital world, you just model them. You can model 6 ways from Sunday. Every day, come in, change a little model, run it again, see what happens. This is becoming a software-first business. It says the last thing I want to do is make anything physical ever again till the customer is willing to pay me for it. Or at least join me and say, hey, that looks really good. Now can you print a prototype and we'll take a look at it? That's the difference. And that's what we talk about the iteration, because every part you do results in an iteration that leads to the next part. When you're building the line, you can never do that. And it's very expensive doing prototypes like that. So we talked about culture, we talked about finance, and technology. And again, the technology is the last thing for you to pay attention to. There's one technology that I will break my own rule and say, if you don't understand it, you have to start running as fast as possible, and it's 3D printing. Because all of the other technologies that make up Industry 4.0 are applicable to scale. IIoT, I put sensors on machines, I get data, great. You know, robotics. Hey, I got scale, I need robots to do more work, keep my labor down, great. And on and on and on. 3D printing is one business model, completely different business model. So if you are not in the 3D printing business, you have to be in the 3D printing business. Because if you don't understand it, it's a bullet with your name on it. And that's what scares me in this area, right? We have to all be coming together. So I hope I didn't scare you too bad, because again, I'm with you on this. We all have to move super fast. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. I don't know how much time we have left, but like I said, that was like a half-hour presentation in 15 minutes, so bear with me as I practice my linguistics. But hopefully, you know, it's something that you feel hopeful about. We want you to feel hopeful. We want you to feel that you can actually make this transition. Last thing. Anybody here from Project Diamond? Great. Good. We have many people from Project Diamond. We'll talk another day about it. We ran out of time. But Project Diamond is a partnership we have with Macomb County where we distributed 3D printers to smaller manufacturers. And the success we're having from those manufacturers on the transition that they made was fantastic. And I know we have examples of that right here, just really good transition. So thank you, Vicki, and thank you for everything. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tom. Just real quick, was there any questions for Tom? This guy's a brain trust, and so you've got his attention. I know we've got some folks on the line, nothing virtually. Any questions for Tom before we move on to our panel? Oh, we've got a taker.
What industries or companies are the leaders right now in the 3D printing business?
Well, they all do different things, so it's really hard. So At Automation Alley, all of them are members. So we have Markforged, we have HP, we have Stratasys, we have Desktop Metal. I'm leaving people out, and I know they'll be annoyed. Someone's probably in this room that I'm leaving out. But they're all members. And the issue is they all do different things very well, right? The difference, what I will say is, prototyping using 3D printing is interesting to me, but it's a red herring. Make sure that if you're going down the path of 3D printing, it leads to, I can 3D print this for production, put it in, because that's the end state. It's 3D printing to get to a point where then I can run it down my stamping line and all that stuff. That's interesting. It's a time saver, but it's not a business model shifter. You know what I mean? And so many people that we talk to, smalls, mid-sized, large manufacturers, they're in the prototyping business for 3D printing, and they don't see it as the means to an end. And that's the mistake they're making. So look for those printers, and they're all coming out now. Markforged is a production-capable printer that prints his parts, carbon fiber parts, as strong as aluminum. And so, which is, by the way, not corrosive resistant either. So there's production parts right there. And those machines, you know, they were 14,000 when we gave them away. They're now down to like 8,000. It's been 1 year, right? So think about what that means. You can print production parts, and the machines cost nothing, especially in the fact that we can't find people to do the work, right? So why wouldn't I want to digitize and be able to have printers that do the work? So that's my answer, and I hope that it answered your question.
It did, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions from the floor?
Just a question over here. Can you comment a little bit on with 3D printing technology constantly changing, on whether 3D printing as a service versus making investments as companies, how do you decide? When do you decide? Do you see that trend continuing? And I guess, can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's a very complicated question, but I'll do my best to give you a little bit of take. So what I hate are the 3D printing aggregators, like Xometry, because they are disintermediating all the manufacturers. They are pulling an Amazon on the manufacturing community. And when you look at I've read their K1s and their stuff, what they're trying to do is Amazonify manufacturing. And I hate that, because that's a lose for all of society except for Xometry, right? Now, 3D printing as a service versus 3D printing internally, if you wanted to be in the service business, so if you're a small, this is why we invented Project Diamond. So we've been giving out printers to everybody. We've done 300 so far. And we're building the software at Automation Alley to stitch them all together so they can behave as one. So if you're on the network, you can say, hey, I just invented the coolest thing. And as a service, someone wants to pay for me to do this. Hey, 299 of my brothers and sisters, can you be in the business with me? Now I don't need the capital. It's all about the innovation. I can have, and what if we had 600 printers or 10,000 printers on the network? Now I can print 10,000 things at a time. And it's just the cost plus a little bit. So there's even more to that answer, but that's the best I could do with those two. Lastly, always buy a printer that can get into production, because you want to get to a point where you can monetize it. If you buy a printer for prototyping, that's a cost, and it's always a cost. It's just a cheaper cost than prototyping some other fashion. If you buy a printer that can sell something, that can go on a machine that you sell, that can make parts that can go on the machine you sell, now you're making money. We have so many examples in Project Diamond. A guy went from $200 a part to $2 a part. One guy's printing simple labels. You know, the metal labels that you have to print on machines. He says, $50 to get it from an outside vendor. I now print it on my 3D printer for $2. Right? These little things add up. He's got like 6 parts, and he adds up. He's saving $1,000 a machine. Now the machine is like $100 grand, but still, it's 1% goes right in his pocket. And by the way, that innovation never ends. That continues forever, because he's now innovating how many more parts will make it onto that machine. Okay? So, you're welcome.
Good morning. Question on the end state, scale, production, and where we are today. What role does standards and consistency and quality play in getting to where we can actually be at scale? So if you're producing something at scale volume, that you know you're getting the same product at the end?
Great question. You have exposed me for the fraud that I am. No, so what I mean by that is, so the dirty little secret is 3D printing can work if you hold it captive. But where we're missing when we want to stitch all 300 together is how do you know all 300 are actually the same quality and consistency? And that's what manufacturing is. Here's how we're going to solve the problem. And when I say we, I mean the industry. Automation Alley is working on this with our academic partners, by the way, right now. And that is, how do you layer a piece of material, laser it, layer the second piece, laser it, and all those laser pictures go to a blockchain in the sky. The blockchain pictures can get reassembled using AI software that says, within tolerance, we know this part is exactly correct because we CAT scanned it the entire process. It's better than any QC that's going on today in subtractive. You have visual systems that can see the end part, or you can do tolerances on the end material. 3D printing is going to be able to take scans of every single layer that's laid down. And those parts that fall out of tolerance, they don't even make it out of the printer. They go right into the recycle bin to get ground up and done again. You see what I mean? So that's the end state. We're not quite there yet, but we're going to be there in years, not decades. Mark IV, well, they have the laser. They're not taking the pictures and putting them into a blockchain. That's what Automation Alley is working on. You're right, Steve. It's already there. So it's just a question of who's going to be the trusted third party that says, hey, we'll take your scans, we'll protect them, but we'll also share them with GM that says, hey, GM, we've done the scan, and it's a perfectly good part. They know the materials. The material science is not in question, right? The material that's being laid down. They know the properties of that already. That will go the same way every time. It's the variability of that particular machine that does a wonky layer, and all of a sudden the whole part's bad. That's where we need the laser. And if we solve that problem, and that's why I kidded that you've exposed me for the fraud, that's the last mile. But let me tell you, that's what we're working on at Automation Alley right now. We have a blockchain initiative that we're working on with us and the World Economic Forum, because if we can solve that problem, that blows open 3D printing for scale like nobody's business. And we encourage everybody to be a part of that initiative. Sit down at the table with us, learn with us, because when that switches, you need to move very, very, very fast. I've probably taken way too much time, Vicki, so I apologize.
Not a problem at all. Can I get another round of applause for Tom? You bring such good energy to this topic.
He wants to get one more, and I don't know.
We'll squeeze in. Okay, because we know this gentleman. We'll let you get that last question in.
Hi, guys. Thank you for the presentation today. It was very helpful. My question, Tom, speaks to that first step of culture. So I heard your comment on teaching us old dogs a new trick.
I'm an old dog with you.
Yeah. How about on the side of, let's say, just down the road from here, very close, is the Center for Science and Industry. It's a program out of Utica Community Schools. Mm-hmm. What is in the works right now for the young folks who are coming up even through high school, capturing them early to start to build this pool of employees?
Yeah, I don't even think I'm qualified to answer that. I think that's probably back to Macomb County and Oakland County and some of these other areas. What are we doing at the high school level? I'll make one comment on that, and that is that I don't think we give young people enough credit. They are digital natives, whether they've done robotics or not. They are digital natives. And they can come in and very quickly understand what Autodesk Fusion is trying to show them. And by the way, software gets more intuitive every year, not less intuitive, because the heavy lifting of, the reason why you have to understand software is because the computer is too stupid to know what you need. Well, the computer is becoming really smart into knowing what you need. And you'll be able to just speak to it and say, make that lighter, shave that plane. So stay with the kids. And the problem we have is not the kids willing to learn and be involved. The problem is we tend to squash kids and say, no, you did. If you come into our organization, you do this menial little thing that can't possibly hurt us in any way. And what I would challenge all of you is say, trust them, sit down. I mean, don't let them burn the factory down, but trust them. Trust them and see where they can go. Unleash their digital nativeness, because you come from a mindset that sees digital as a tool. They come from a mindset as software first. They are software first natives, and it'll be different.
So thank you for your comments on that. And just real quickly for the rest of the audience here. So I have some firsthand experience in that, in reinforcing what you're saying. My son has attended CSI and actually was using our 3D printer prior to receiving the Project Diamond one. He then was using the Project Diamond one with his friends at school at our facility. Now he's attending Lawrence Tech, and they just, freshman year, just finished a first project and 3D printed a part off of that Project Diamond printer.
By the way, if you're an academic institution, I know you are, I don't think our academic institutions are focusing enough on 3D printing. They're now teaching systems engineering, which is awesome. But I tend to view 3D printing as existential to engineering. If you come out of a school now and you don't understand exactly how 3D printing works, that's a disservice, because then I have to go learn that through the company or on my own. And I think we need to do a better job. It's not that we're behind, we just need to do a better job of 3D printing as the final production state, not 3D printing as how you prototype things. And that would be really important. That's coming. I'm going to back out.
You're good.
So.
No, this is phenomenal. And Automation Alley does have a table here. You'll find that at the very end of the hour, we actually built in time today for networking. Right. So if you need to reach out to Automation Alley, we'll make sure that happens. And John, we've got some partners in the room today that can actually answer your question. We pulled together what we call the Tiger Team. So you will meet the Tiger Team before you leave here today. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pull in our actually, Tom, here it is, the remote. We're going to pull our panelists up to the front. While we have our panelists come up here, we know what's happening in this room is pretty organic. Actually, a lot of you, maybe for the first time, have had an opportunity to come to something physically where you get to network. So I'm going to give you guys a minute or two, introduce yourself to your neighbor, and then if I can have the panelists come up, we'll get that panel primed.
Was it good? Thank you so much. And you're not in manufacturing, so even you guys liked it, right? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Stevenson Maine or Stevenson CSI? Oh, yeah. Good. Stevenson Maine. Kind of like CSI, this version, but it's more focused on automation.
All right, we're going to bring this back. Give you guys a quick minute to wrap up those discussions, but loving it. For all of you that are online, for the panelists, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit those, and we'll ask them during the open Q&A. All right, when we talk about the revolution, the Industry 4.0 revolution, we know it's a very confusing topic. There's depth to what is happening in this space. We also know that there are various businesses that are incorporating or touching elements of 4.0, and maybe perhaps hearing from those businesses may be that aha moment for you on how can I bring this into my facility? How do I bring this behind my four walls? Just even hearing through the lessons learned and some of the trials and tribulations that these businesses have gone through. Unfortunately, we did lose one of our panelists, but I can guarantee you from the three that we've got today, you're going to learn something, because each one is very unique and distinct in what they do within their industry. So with that, we actually have them sitting in order of their picture. We've got Rick Roberts. He's with Colonial Mold and Plastic. He's been the owner for over 37 years. I believe it's a co-ownership, correct, with your wife as well?
Yes, she owns all of them.
He says she tells him what to do.
Yes, she does.
It is a plastic injection molding company. I won't go too in depth with what you do, because I want you to describe what your company does as well. Next, we've got Richard Canny. He is the president of Automation Industries, based in Roseville, Michigan. And we're going to talk about technology as it relates to automation with your industry. And then next up, we've got Jeff Simic, and he's with RCO Engineering and Aerospace. They're also based out of Roseville, Michigan, doing some phenomenal things in this 3D printing space, as well as taking on a very strong leadership role in the transformation of Industry 4.0. So with that, Rick Roberts, I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit more about your company and what is it that you're doing over there.
Well, we started Colonial Mold 37 years ago, and GM actually pushed this into production 33 years ago. And we do a lot of niche market work. We do a lot of rotary two-shot, a lot of automated assemblies with robots. So we try to stay ahead of the curve, but we also use our equipment to do different things. If you ever been in Motor City Casino, we put 28,000 ceiling tiles in Motor City Casino using our mold shop to make the parts. So I always tell people, if you have a piece of equipment that mills, it can do a lot more than make a product. You can use it for a lot of different things. So we push the envelope all the time. And I'd like to answer the gentleman's question, wherever he was with the blue shirt, about kids in school. We're working with 13 Macomb County schools to get kids to be mold makers. So we're actually teaching them to design a part, to make an injection mold, and then produce the part for the OEMs. So it is going on right now, helping the kids at school. So we definitely need, all of us old guys that other people helped, we need to help the kids back.
Awesome. All right, Richard Canny.
Hi, good morning. Ultimation is one of those kind of thousands of little companies you see around here in Macomb County, 30 years old, now on its second generation of ownership. My wife and I acquired it 10 years ago. You might be able to tell I have a little bit of an accent. I'm not from here. I was originally with Ford Motor Company from Australia and ended up here. And so I was able, after leaving Ford in 2008, to kind of see the transition from running bits of a large company to running a smaller company that we now own. Originally in conveyors and material handling, the company has been able to diversify quite a bit over the last 10 years. We now do quite a lot of kind of general industrial distribution center systems, and we've become a leader in a new segment, which is vertical indoor farming material handling systems. And we've just been able to kind of rearrange the company on the fly, I would say, in terms of our embracing of digital technology. And I think it actually began with us becoming a strong digital marketer, and then we were able to segue from that into becoming a digital integrator and manufacturer. And on any given day, we're a manufacturer, integrator, or wholesaler distributor of different things. But it's been a really interesting transition to take a company from kind of real old style, I would say, real old style company of 30 plus years to getting more modern. We've certainly got a long way to go, but it's been a great adventure.
Okay.
Great. All right, Jeff, you're up.
All right, RCO Engineering and Aerospace, we're really a super diversified company. We have a campus environment that has supports aero, space, automotive, defense, even some energy work. We have a horizontal manufacturing, so we have an array of on our campus of different manufacturing capabilities. One of them happens to be a pretty large investment in additive manufacturing. Stratasys is one of our big suppliers of equipment. Before RCO, I was involved in advanced manufacturing for a large tier 1 automotive company that was, its focus was lights out manufacturing, and so I brought a lot of that to RCO, and so we kind of roll on a couple different things. One is you cannot improve what you do not measure, and that was the original, how are we going to start measuring what we're doing and using the technology and software and tools to do that. The other one is really just taking technology, tools, and talent to eliminate work, waste, and worry. And so every time we have work, waste, and worry, we're trying to figure out what technology, and obviously talent is very critical, obviously, to the culture that Tom was talking about. You need that talent and people to have these ideas to go do that. But so that's kind of how we, our main just macro focus in our operation.
Fantastic. And you threw that word technology, which is my very first question. We've got 3 big questions for you guys focused around the technology. What is it that you're doing? the talent? How are you getting the talent, ready and primed for this space? And the last thing, which I think a lot of you will find interesting, is what is your ROI? What is the return on investment for going this route? So let's start with the technology piece. And actually, we'll start with you, Jeff. We'll start back and then move this way. What are some of the Industry 4.0 technologies that you've incorporated at RCO? Going back to Tom Kelly had a slide up that talked about the pillars.
So additive manufacturing is a key one. Obviously, I know Tom and the team, it does make sense to put that and highlight that for this industry in this region. Certainly since we're so, 20% of our GDP for the state of Michigan is made up of manufacturing, and if this is going to take away, we noticed this probably, we've been doing additive manufacturing for about, I'd say 12 years now. Started out with one small printer. One thing that's unique about RCO is we're in the product development phase. We do product development all the way to production. And so it started in the product development phase because we've seen folks and OEMs wanting printed parts instead of us building an injection mold or a prototype mold. But now today we're actually making parts, especially in the aerospace industry, non-structural components. They're flying in the air today. So we've made it from the prototype end of it, and now we are moving towards scaling it into actual production and certifying it. And FAA is that's a definite challenge that we've pushed through. So we've also introduced, and probably for the last 8 years of running a manufacturing execution system on the floor that actually connects to people. And it's a huge piece. And when you think about, it's a software system that is making parts, right? And we're making aerospace seats, and it's very boutique, very high configuration products, but we're using that manufacturing execution system to deliver a quality part on time every time. And it's quite unique to use that system to connect to people. I mean, we can use the systems today to connect to equipment, physical capital, but human capital is key. And I think that's something that is important. And then we're also doing the typical IoT stuff where we're collecting data. You can't improve what you don't measure. You need the data. So we have that IoT throughout our company. We have about, I would say, a dozen or so use cases of Industry 4.0. We want to just continue to grow that. That's kind of building up the culture. We do need to learn more, though, about how to make this culture a little bit more, be more formal about our approach than what we're doing today.
Very good. And Richard, what about you?
Yeah, we've been down the same pathway that perhaps many of you are also heading down in terms of we move to 3D design, we do a lot of simulation. We are members of Project Diamond, and we've begun doing some printing of production parts as well as prototypes and things like that. And I think we'll do more with additive manufacturing. One observation I have that may be relevant is when I look back 20, 25, 30 years ago, there was kind of a digital divide between the really big companies and their CAD systems and software and what they could do versus what a small company like some of ours could do. And these days, it's like that's been flipped upside down. The software that's available to us as a smaller company is relatively affordable. The additive manufacturing technology now is relatively affordable. If we don't have it, we can get it digitally somewhere else at a good price, wherever it is in the world. Likewise, our ability to bring in talent wherever they are to run that software is the same. So it's kind of like the old system was that, the big companies were the ones with all the brains and the little companies did all the work kind of thing. These days, I think it's the opposite, where networks of smaller companies can actually be more nimble and more efficient than the larger multinationals. And I think it's kind of helping us become more efficient that way.
Got it. And Rick, let's talk about your company.
We have brought in 3D printing for a lot of reasons. Again, we're old school, right? So all of us guys that had been in the trade 40, 50 years, it was always thinking of old school. Give you an idea, my granddaughter actually said, "Can I use your phone?" I said, "Let me unlock it." She said, "I know how to unlock it, just look at your fingerprint," right? So they think different than we think. And to be honest, some of the smartest kids or people that we have in the trade are the kids that don't know what you can't do. So they actually look at things completely different than us old school. So it's a great marriage. So to give you an idea, we actually make window frames for an airplane company, and they were $138. 3D printed are $14. So we dealt with the buyer to get the cost structure down, save them 50%, and our return on investment was enormous, because now instead of getting 10% of 138, right, we're getting 80% of $70 or whatever it is. So the return on that is huge. The other thing is we use our 3D printer for a lot of tech reviews. So we do a lot of tech reviews. We deal directly with the OEMs, right? So when we go in for a tech review, we actually print a 3D part of what their design is and a 3D part of what we can make. So we educate them at the same time of, hey, this is what you designed, but you can't make that. This is what you can make in a production environment, right? So it works. We are a leader in getting that kind of technology in front of the customer. And for us, because we're fully integrated, we design products, we build the injection molds, we run the parts, we bring it in. I had a banker in the 80s that told me, an idea that has stuck with us. If you're not ahead of the curve, you're going to get run over. So it's just like a person running a race. If you don't practice for that race, the day of the race, you're never going to do it. So invest very small in 3D printing. We can print some very large parts, and again, some complicated. There are some avenues that the material doesn't always work in a production environment, but it's getting better literally every week. So if you stay with that curve, you're going to be the guy on the top, because it's much easier to learn a little than it is try to learn a lot. So.
All right, very good. I didn't mention this, but in Rick's bio, he has a hobby as a drag racer, so nice analogy there with racing.
I am a drag racer. My car, the license plate says goodbye. I do not like to lose. My wife and my kids hate it. My grandkids hate it. But I don't like losing on anything. I will drag race an old lady in a minivan. So when it comes to staying ahead of people, I try to do that. So yes.
It might be very innate.
The wife says I'm not all there, but that's okay.
Awesome. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit, because I know you guys talked about talent a little bit. And I look at this as twofold. You already have a current workforce. What are you doing to train that workforce for this new technology that you've now incorporated into your facility? And then second, maybe the second prong approach is, what are you doing to attract that new talent to come into your facility? So actually, we'll start with you, Rick.
Give you an idea. My daughter's a high school calculus and trig teacher at Romeo. She said the biggest problem, because I'll be yapping to her about the trade, she said the biggest problem is changing the mindset of the parents. The parents think if you build an injection mold or you're in tool and die, they're a dump. It's dark, you're going to end up being a couch potato, and that is not the case. If you ever looked on our website at our equipment, our facilities, they're virtually spotless. So to bring kids in, you want to, again, like I had mentioned with that gentleman, we're working with Macomb County Schools to teach the kids, actually design a part. Okay, GM will give us data, okay? So we give it to the kids. The kids, we tell them, okay, now put this appendage over here or change that. They change the design. We go back to GM with them. They say, yes, it's good. We now have them design an injection mold. They then take that design and they give it to their own metal shop. That metal shop now makes that injection mold. They bring it to us. We run parts. They do a CMM layout. They can compare it to the 3D printed part they have. And then we take those into General Motors. And it's a big winner. You'll see in a lot of kids that is changing the mindset themselves on what a mold-making facility is or manufacturing is. And we find ourselves in 37 years as build from within. Not, you do have to go outside, but if you build from within, you keep that momentum in your facility going, that they actually are a part of a team and part of the future. So it's working for us, so.
Got it. What about you, Richard?
Yeah, I'll probably focus on the engineering side a little bit. We do find that we are a little less focused on college degrees and master's degrees, and perhaps more focused on bringing up people with trades backgrounds. We certainly look to people with a trades background for our internal team here. Hybrid working patterns are important for people who are maybe on-site for part of the week and off-site for the rest. We do have some employees now who are permanently remote and will continue that way. We've also used a lot of contractors in order to get some of the deep kind of vertical skills that we lacked internally or would never get, and those deep external skills are more flexible. They're available, you know, these days anywhere in the world. And what I've found is that they can help teach your internal team too, right? So whether it's, you know, some software that you don't have experience with yourself, or whether it's just, you know, you need the guy who's really the greatest one at doing simulation for something in this area, or cinematic quality rendering and 4K videos of your stuff. That can be a big way to help your local team, for want of a better word, kind of increase their skill base as well.
Got it.
Okay, for RCO, I think the number one thing, and I think it's key for a lot of everyone in this room, is branding for talent, branding your business for talent. We're not the best at it yet, but we're working on it. Because they have to understand that you are a company that is going after Industry 4.0, because they want to come work for you. I think we definitely build our own folks. I'll tell you, First Robotics has been key. I'll tell you, we love First Robotics. We do a lot of work with that organization. And I have a handful of kids that have decided not to go to college, and they're working in our business, apprenticeship type stuff. And they are phenomenal. They are phenomenal. They come out of the high school at 18, 19 years old, and they're just, their minds are sharp, and they're passionate and hungry for the technology that they've been learning for the last 4 or 12 years, depending on how long they were in First Robotics. So I can't, you know, programs like that, where it's amazing that we have it here in Michigan. It's amazing that we have Automation Alley here in Michigan. I will say, I have been involved in some of the World Economic Forum stuff through Automation Alley in the past, and I've gone to different events, and I've met people, and they look at this, they look at the nation, and they say, there's nothing like it in the nation, Automation Alley, so we're lucky that we're all having this meeting here today. And Tom didn't give me $20, although I'll take 20. No, but, and it is, you know, so, you know, the nation looks at this stuff, and, you know, we have to brand for talent. I think that's super important. If you don't do anything, at least do branding for talent. But I do want to say that the nation needs us. They need Michigan. If you think about what's happening in the manufacturing world and what our predator nations are doing right now, we're really just a bunch of patriots that need to put this in play, and we all need to push forward.
All right, so we got this. All right, last question, and we're going to talk about money. You know, you guys have spent money investing in this technology, investing in the talent. Can you tell this audience, you know, where do you see the greatest return on your investment? You know, you talked actually, you know, a price point where the cost of materials drastically reduce the cost of processing a part. But talk about it in real sense. Where are you guys seeing the cost savings? And, you know, if we could plant a seed with those in the room today, where's that next leap where this is worth their time and effort? And I'll start with you, Rick.
I'll give you an idea. If you jump down our website, you'll see that when we put up all of our new plants, or me and the wife put up the new plants, it's fully automated. 5-6 axis robots You'll see a cell of 2 Millicron machines. We teamed up with Millicron. We've teamed up with like Inco Manifolds. Just that's the only people we deal with. But you'll see 2 Millicron machines sitting next to each other with a 6-axis robot. It took 22 people to keep up with it when we didn't put the 6-axis robot in there. The parts had to be assembled. So we put robots on all of those, right? 5 and 6-axis. In 5.4 months, it paid for all 3 of the robots. What it allowed us to do is take those 22 people and put them into an assembly area that is not robotic. But the more important thing that allowed us to do is take and put a person on every machine in our building that's quality. So a lot of people think, oh, I bought a robot and now the quality is there. No, I'm sorry, a robot can still make a mistake. So on our end, we have a human at every machine to make sure quality is there. I guess I'm bragging, but we have won GM's highest quality award 6 years in a row. So it is definitely paying off. So for us, where do we see the biggest return is employees and robots. They have to work together. We have employees that you can see the difference when they walk through the facility and there's something on the floor, they stop, pick it up and throw it out or put it away. Their whole attitude is to be a part of that team. And when you have people thinking they're a part of that team, which they are, and you treat them well and they know they're a part of that future, that's where the return on investment is. For us, it's never been money. It's never been about making the money. You have to in business or you're not going to be around. But it's more about being there for the future. For me, I have a son-in-law that's carrying on. Our son is an orthopedic surgeon at Royal Oak Beaumont. You can see both our kids are smart, so they can't be mine, right? So it's about teaching those kids that if they say something, you really need to implement what they're saying, and you'll see that you'll get a lot more out of it. If an employee goes up to you and says, hey, why don't we do this? And you're like, nah. If you can't, you need to explain. Otherwise, get them a part of that team, and your return on investment is huge. So.
Awesome. Richard.
For us, it's more of a mindset than a cost, I think. As you go from being a digital marketer to a digital manufacturer, it's like, if you can expand the breadth that you can cover, it's really just a revenue enabler. And it's enabling us to do different things in different segments for different customers than we would never have been able to do given our historical kind of roots in the automotive industry as a fabricator. And I think that's the way of seeing how can you expand outwards from what you've got in a way that gets you more revenue. Oh, by the way, yeah, you're using digital and 4.0 tools to kind of help achieve that.
Yeah, I think everything that we've launched, I would say all of our use cases have been paid back. The manufacturing execution system that we use to connect to human capital is, that's made a huge dent in paper. So everything's digital that feeds in. Work orders go to the floor digitally. The record of production, the record of the things that we need to collect and the characteristics that we need to collect about the things that we ship to aerospace are all digital. So that's been huge for us, because if anybody knows anything about aerospace, there's a lot of paperwork. And so that's been wildly helpful. And then, with the additive manufacturing, that's paid back very quickly. And some of the stuff it's about the payback, but then it's also about the build of your culture too. How do you measure how much culture you're introducing to your company? And so I think that's one of the things that's a little bit more difficult to measure, but it's certainly important as part of the payback.
Got it. All right, so we're going to open the floor up to the room if you guys have any questions for the panelists. Same goes to those online. Okay. Oh, we got a question over here.
I might be able to live without the mic. So a quick question. I understand. So a question for you. So Jeff, I know RCO fairly well from years past. And from what I've gathered from the other panelists, are all three of you part of a family-owned business?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I ask that because I think it ties into your point earlier about culture. And so I find it ironic that there's three family-owned businesses on the panel that have adopted this and have a culture that's grossly different than a company that is not. So I just was curious if one of you or a couple of you could comment on that aspect of it. Thank you.
Yeah, it certainly makes us more agile. You know, there's a little red tape to get to the top and make a decision. And so that's a great observation. I didn't think of it.
It's a great observation. It's one of the things that makes it fun, actually, is if you've got a great idea, let's do it today. It didn't work like that at Ford.
Yeah, we find that being family-owned, that people actually, again, care. They understand that it's their future. Where you work, what do we hear from a lot of people that come to work for us? Over there, you're nothing but a number. Here, you're a member, and that's huge.
Good question. Any other questions for our panelists? Okay, I think we are good. I really want to thank all three of you for joining us today, giving us the insight of what's happening behind your four walls. They will be sticking around, so if you've got some additional questions for the panelists, feel free to grab them at our break. Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, so, I promised you guys are going to meet the Tiger team, and this is all part of this collaboration with Macomb Next. When we submitted this grant to the state of Michigan, we know that there is a lot of confusion on what is out there, these service providers that are talking about Industry 4.0. As a business, it has to be as confusing for you as it is us in economic development as we try to navigate the waters of where do I go for help, or where can I find that talent resource, or with working with academia. How do I connect to the K through 12s? So what we've formed is a collaboration. We're calling it the Tiger Team. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that terminology. It's actually a DoD terminology talking about the brain trust. We've got 13 members that are part of our Tiger Team, and I'm going to ask the Tiger Team to actually come up here. We've given them a real specific goal to provide a 30-second pitch to all of you on what it is their organizations do. They also have, as you can see, lined across the back wall, they have their tables set up. So what you're going to do is you're going to hear it quickly from the Tiger Team, and then we're going to break, and I'm going to invite you guys to visit with each of our vendors and really get to know their organizations and how they can help your company. And then while the Tiger Team is coming on up, I'm going to have you guys network again. Introduce yourself to the other partner to the right or to the left that you did not meet. You want to do it that way? We got the form, right? Yeah. Here, we'll just stop. I can't do All right, are you guys ready to meet the Tiger Team? Ready to go. Okay. Each one of them has 30 seconds, so we're going to try to keep them to the 30 seconds. I don't have a cane up here, but if I give you the look, your 30 seconds is up. And so with that, actually I'm going to have Patrick kick this off, but as long as you guys can hear me. All right, we'll start off with Macomb Community College. They'll tell you guys what you do, and that 30-second clock will get started.
Okay, so 30 seconds. Ready, go. Patrick Rouse, I'm the Workforce and Continuing Education Director for Engineering and Advanced Tech. Here at Macomb Community College, we pride ourselves in providing training for individuals and businesses at the pace of technological advancement. Now, the way we are able to do that is by listening and engaging with all of you and creating customized training to meet your needs. And that provides us an opportunity to provide individuals a pathway into high-demand jobs. So in short, because I only have 30 seconds, we have two aspects within our education model, and that is providing a pipeline for individuals to enter into. So if you're looking for talent, which I know all of us are, you can seek us out for that. And then the second side is if you have incumbent workers or current talent that you want to be trained on something customized for your area, please be mindful that we do that as well. In fact, 60% of our training activities are with individuals with more than a bachelor's degree. So this is definitely an opportunity for you to skill up that workforce. And things like Tom said earlier, Fusion 360, things like that, that can provide you the opportunity to do that 3D printing.
Hi, I'm John Beds. I'm a program manager at Automation Alley. Tom covered a lot of the philosophy of what's going on with Automation Alley. But under my role, I also manage the Industry 4.0 Automation Alley Accelerator Program, which makes investments in technology companies that are developing Industry 4.0 technologies, and working with all the regional grant partners like the great ones here in Macomb County. But some of the other state regional grantees have demo fund pilot money that's available to manufacturers that you can apply for if you come back and see me. I can tell you about that. One other thing, I want to make a pitch for membership in Automation Alley. We have memberships from foundation level, which are kind of expensive or moderately expensive, all the way down to, through our relationship with the MEDC, we have an essential membership level, which is provided at no cost to any Michigan manufacturer, and that includes all of you and your networks. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Azadeen. I'm the Associate Vice President for Educational Outreach at Wayne State University. What we heard today, this morning, is exciting, but also overwhelming. The good news is, like Macomb, we have in the midst of us a Research One institution. We have hundreds of faculty and experts who are spending their time trying to figure this stuff out. And they have done, and I would encourage you to stop by at our table later, because they have, I mean, as we were talking, this is the thing that we're spending hours and a lot of money on trying to figure out. So we have programs that can help you, whether it is educating your workforce, skilling up, bringing a program, customized program to your company, whether you want someone to come and help you think through some of these issues and help you kind of figure out how do you go about implementing this. We are here, we are right here in Macomb, we are here at the University Center, we have our Advanced Technology Education Center right in Warren, across from Macomb Community College. We're doing things, programming on alternative energy, automation, a lot of data analytics stuff, cybersecurity, you name it. We have, again, the good news is a Research One institution, resources is at your disposal and available to support you in these efforts.
I'm Pete Schmidt with Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center. We're a nonprofit organization that helps small and mid-sized manufacturers become more profitable and efficient. Our goals and efforts are with helping with training and consultations in things like lean manufacturing, Industry 4.0, quality management systems, culture, things like that. We have an Industry 4.0 technology opportunity assessment that is sponsored by the MEDC. We're working closely with Automation Alley on that. We go into your facilities and look from the front office all the way to the back and make recommendations on how either lean manufacturing or automation or any of the Industry 4 technologies can help you as a manufacturer become more efficient in your operations.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Williams. I'm the Career and Technical Education Consultant at the Macomb Intermediate School District. So it was exciting to hear a lot of connections that some of you are making with, is that mine? Oh, is making with our high school students. We have 14 high school programs that teach CAD and 3D printing, so your additive manufacturing. So if you want to get connected with any of them, I'm your girl. Also, shameless plug, if you are around on May 24th, We just set the date the other day. May 24th, we are going to be hosting our Macomb Talent Showcase. And that is going to be all of those seniors who are about to graduate, who have been through a manufacturing type program, who are staying local post-graduation and looking for a company who wants to invest in them. We will be holding it at the Macomb ISD. So anything career and technical education, getting connected with the high schools. If you want to know more about our programs, we can talk.
Good morning, Bob Van Til, Oakland University, Industrial and Systems Engineering. It's one of the newer engineering domains at Oakland University. We launched our degrees in 2007 in that particular domain. By 2009, we were heavily vested into Industry 4.0. 2 years before the name appeared. And so we tended to use at that time product lifecycle management, kind of was a buzzword that was used and floats around through a lot of our course titles. Other terms, smarter manufacturing, digital twins, you see all these other terms floating around. But we got heavily into it in 2009. Our undergraduate, some of the areas that we would get in, obviously we're not comprehensive across all, I4O, throughput simulation, ergonomics, human factors, virtual augmented reality, data analytics, so we're very big in systems engineering. Our undergraduate program is one of 6 in the nation that's accredited in both industrial engineering and in systems engineering. So we are great in supplying, there's been huge demand for these graduates. A lot of our students, 80-90% intern while they're going through school, full-time year-round, and there's been a lot of demand for them. And not only do we provide these new engineers, but we're very big in upskilling and reskilling working engineers. We offer 3 master's programs, industrial and systems engineering, engineering management, systems engineering with all these various tools in them. And the majority of those students, 80-90%, are full-time working engineers. All courses are in the evening. Some stuff's also online, and so we're very big into that. And actually, in terms of some of the coursework we offer, we also get engineers in industry just picking up individual courses. I'm not going to do a whole master's degree, but you got that one course there in AR, VR I'd really like to take. And they'll sign up, pay tuition, and take a course. And we're right over there.
Good morning, Jim Ahi, Program Director for Economic Development and Business Development within Macomb County. As you can tell, there's a lot of people up here, a lot of services that are being offered. My team's charge is to be the conduit for you to these organizations. So I want you to think of our organization as part of your team, as part of your company, because we can come in and we can take that burden of trying to find Shannon or Patrick or anybody up here. We can do it for you, set it up, and set up meetings for you to get the services that you need to continue growing. Not only do we link you to these organizations, but we also take care of any interfacing between state and local offices. We can help you get connected there as well, helping with everything from incentives all the way down to finding people, hiring people, training people, and retraining people. We are the conduit. So just think of us as that. And thank you all for being here today. Have a great day.
Colin Miller with Michigan Works. I think most of you, we've engaged with at one point or another. I guess our role in this meeting this morning is to talk to you about, you talked about capital. Michigan Works has a lot of programs that will save your business money. Right now, the Going Pro Talent Fund, if you're familiar with that, is a state program that's a competitive grant to provide training for your employees. So it's $1,500 for an individual employee towards training, and up to $3,000 if you have a registered apprenticeship in your company. Those applications are due this week, so we probably can't get one started for you this week, but next year we want to get more of you signed up for that. So we're excited to be part of that and offer that to you guys as employers. We have other programs like on-the-job training that will help you with hiring. We see employers and job seekers as our 2 customers. So we do have a lot of programs. We have apprenticeships. We have a lot of funds right now that have been provided from state and federal sources. So we're anxious to be a partner for you and help you figure out how we're going to do this Industry 4.0 and pay for everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Can I get a hand for the Tiger team? Keeping it under 30 seconds. All right, so as the Tiger team goes back to their tables to meet and greet you, I just got a few closing remarks, things to talk about, and what's next on our agenda. You will find the Macomb Next website will be your central repository. We've worked really closely with that Tiger team to collect information on what each of their organizations are doing in this collective space. All that information has gone live on our website, Macomb Next. But I also bring up another feature with our website in that, as these events pop up, Shannon brought up the event in May. Some of you guys are writing that down real quickly because I know you're interested in grabbing those students. We will make sure that event is posted to the Macomb Next website. We do have an event coming up in partnership with Macomb Chamber. This is a cybersecurity summit, really looking at small business preparedness. Cybersecurity is one of those pillars that falls within Industry 4.0, and we actually have quite a few businesses that are thriving in this space. So more details to come on that. We will be meeting again as a Macomb Next workshop in April of 2022. So you will see more guest speakers, more topics, and the ability for you to network with other businesses at that April 22 event. More information will be forthcoming, and we'll make sure that gets posted to the website. So here we're going to break. We wanted to make sure that we padded enough time in the agenda for you guys to meet and greet, go out there, shake some hands, meet some new businesses. This is also your opportunity to visit any of the Tiger Team booths. I want to make mention, we do have a couple of our friends over here. They're not real, they're robotic. So I want you to meet Wally, Bertha, and Thor over there in the corner. MMTC was gracious enough to bring some of their technology here for you guys to demo and really see it in action. So that is available as well. With that, thank you very much. We will stay in touch.